Kim Huston.
And good morning, sunshine, and welcome to another edition of our show. Rolf, thank you again for having me on and for allowing me the opportunity to bring some good news. And we are celebrating this week. We are celebrating National Bourbon Week. And who does it better than Bardstown, Nelson County? Who should do it better than Bardstown, Nelson County, the bourbon capital of the world? And so with that, I thought, okay, good news. Good morning, sunshine. National Bourbon Week. I have to bring my best friend in bourbon in here to talk on our show today, and just to talk fun. And it was so funny because he cringed just a few minutes ago when they said bourbon legend Fred No, and he says, I'm not a legend, just Fred No. So I just am so proud to have my good friend. First of all, good friend. Second of all, colleague. Third of all, traveling partner in economic development. But Fred, welcome. This is funny for you and I to have microphones in front of us. We talk a lot, but not with microphones here. So welcome.
Glad to be here, Kim.
Happy National Bourbon Week. You've
Thank
been
you.
busy. I know you had a big luau at your house the other night.
Did that Monday night, and then what did we do? We got something every night, it seems like. Went down to Cobbett Tavern and spoke Tuesday night. Tonight we have a supper club in Claremont. And tomorrow night there's something I got to do.
Something, yeah, look at your calendar. Yeah. Well, you know, National Bourbon Week grew from National Bourbon Day, and I have to get Marcy Palatella with Preservation Distillery. She said, we have a lot more to celebrate than just one day. We need to make it a whole week. So it started, actually, you guys kicked it off on Monday, and then we ended, hopefully, with a street concert, again, sponsored by you guys, on Saturday. But every day, every night, there's been something. It's been a lot of fun. There's still some events going on. You can go to nationalbourbonweek.com and see the other events that are going on if you have an interest. But, you know, it's really fun that, you know, Fred, and you really play it down, and as humble as you are, I understand why, because I just did an interview for Fred. He's getting ready to get a big award, and they said, you know, what one word comes to mind when you think about Fred? And I just said, two, humble and modest. You know, as well known as he is across, he's our George Clooney, basically, of Kentucky. But to me, he's just Fred. And to his friends and his neighbors and the people he grew up with, he's just Fred. And we just love that about you. And did you ever think, when you were a kid, living in the house next door to where you live now, you would be in the same business that your family had been in for decades?
Not really.
Yeah.
Dad played it down. You know, it was just a job for him. Back when I was born in the 50s, 60s, bourbon was kind of doing well. Then in the 70s, it kind of diminished, and it was just a job. And, you know, back then there was a lot of people involved in the bourbon industry. So it was just, he worked at the Jim Beam Distillery in Boston, Kentucky. And then when the bourbon took off, you know, it kind of caught us all by surprise, me included. I was in high school, and Dad said, you got to get your college. He said, don't bank on this being here. I said, what do you mean? He said, well, we had to shut down the Boston plant because we didn't need, you know, bourbon was on a drastic decline. And with his development of the small batch bourbons and, you know, some of the other distillers, you know, Parker and his Elijah Craig out at Heaven Hill, Jimmy Russell with the Russell Reserve, and then Elmer T. Lee. Those guys created those products and went down the road and started selling them, and sold bourbon and Kentucky and tourism, and it all took off. But I never dreamed when I was a kid that I'd be doing it. Hell, I never knew what I was going to be doing.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, Fred has been a secret weapon of mine, economic development. People have no clue, but we used to, when I was in economic development, we'd travel all across the country. We would host lunches for people in New York and, you know, in Arizona or whatever, and we'd invite people who wanted to bring companies to Bardstown or Kentucky to a lunch. Well, you know, every state was doing it, so hardly anybody really ever showed up. And then we had this great idea to bring Fred with us. And so Fred was our guest speaker. He was our person. So all the other states ended up just, getting rid of their lunches because everybody wanted to go to the Kentucky lunch and meet Fred. So we've traveled from one end to the country together, and he has spoken, and he's talked about bourbon. And the best thing about it, too, is, he always has a story of they're still in Bardstown. And so I always had a leg up on, we started our business in Bardstown, Nelson County. We're still here. It's a great place to do business. But gosh, we had a lot of fun traveling across the country promoting Bardstown. And you've been a great ambassador. So, talk about a couple of the other things that you've really done, on your road trips as far as being able to bring business to Bardstown.
We, just tell the story that, we started here 230 years ago and, moved like from down where Washington, Nelson, Marion County meet, moved up here behind Nazareth, then moved to Claremont, and then we got the plant over in Boston, and that's just where the family's been. I mean, the house I live in up there, the Beam family got in the early 1900s, and there's been somebody in it ever since, and it's just where we're from. People think, where are you going to go? Would you like to have a house in Florida or something? No, I'm right here. I'm not going anywhere. I say, my next move will be to the graveyard. I'm not going anywhere. I mean, this is...
Let's hope it's a long way from now, too, yeah.
Well, you never know. Yeah. I mean, I'm not going anywhere. I got nothing, When you travel a lot and you come back, you don't realize how beautiful it is around here with the trees and the hills. I mean, when you travel all over you go out west, everything's flat, no trees, desert. You get to California, it's kind of crazy out there, but then when you come back, when you land in Louisville, when you're flying over, you see the warehouses there at Claremont on the approach in, you say, well, I'm back home.
You're home, yeah. Well, your path didn't really follow a straight line into bourbon. From your high school to your college, you had a couple of detours along the way. What are some of the detours that you had along your way of getting to Beam? Because I know there's a few good stories in there, including how many years it took you to get out of college.
Yeah, it was Dad. If I was going to come to work at Beam, I had to finish college. Just have to. He didn't, so, fathers like their sons to do better than they did, so I said, okay. So after 8 years and a lot of Booker's money, and enough transferring from college to college, if you got bad transcripts, you transfer enough, D's and F's will fall off that transcript, and you'll eventually acquire 120 credit hours, and somebody will give you a degree. But it was, it was an adventure, started off at Western Kentucky University. I went to military academy, I picked my college from looking at a Playboy magazine, top 10 party schools. I know that's not the criteria most people use in picking colleges, but
hey,
Western Kentucky was the number 2 party school in the nation.
It works.
1975.
Roth is shaking his head yes, because he knows from being down that area.
Ohio State was there right after.
Right after, yeah.
Just right after. Ohio State was number 1, Western was number 2. That was halfway home from Lebanon, Tennessee, where military school was, and I said, well, why not try Western? I remember when Dad dropped me off, they couldn't have a car the first semester, so he drove me down. That was usually a very, I guess, trying moment when people take their kids off to college, but they'd taken me off to military school. Mom didn't take off work from the hospital. Dad drove me down there in his truck, helped me carry my bags up to my room at Pierce Ford Tire. And as we're coming down that last, I was walking him back out to the truck, hoping he'd put a little money in my pocket. They put on a bulletin board, 100 keg party, all you can drink, $5. He looked at me and said, I guess you'll be there tonight. I said, if I can find a ride. He said, you'll never make it. 3 semesters later, he got the letter before I did that I'd violated academic probation and had to come pick up my stuff. And he threw that letter across the table, and then the rest is
history.
He got me a job working at the original Toddy's liquor store out on Maple Hill with our cousin Toddy Beam. That was an adventure, and I went to St. Catherine, so it was doing my homework at the bar at Toddy Beam's liquor store, the old one out on Maple Hill. I saw a lot of stuff.
I bet. I think there's probably a whole book, on what went on out at that Toddy's Liquors years and years ago.
Yeah, you knew everything that was going on.
And if Walls could talk at that place, they burn it down.
Oh yeah. They tore it down, I think.
Yeah, it tear it down. We're going to let our good friend Dick Heaton, Conway Heaton, give a little ad here, and we're going to be back with more stories from Fred No. Stay tuned.
Sunshine, here's Kim.
Well, so many interviews. You've done millions of interviews over the years talking about bourbon and talking about Bardstown and talking about the brand. Let's talk about Fred Noe, the father, the grandfather, the resident of Bardstown. It must be fun now to see what's happening with your son Freddie in the business as well, too.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm very proud of him. He's the opportunity was there if he wanted it. And that was the thing, people think that, like people like Freddie and myself, as soon as we're born, you're destined to be the next distiller at Beam. But, it's not like we're Prince Charles, Your dad was very adamant about let you be a kid and not put any pressure it has to be something you want to do.
Yeah.
So I did the same thing with Freddie. I said, don't even worry about this stuff. And he enjoyed going down there with Booker and fishing, at the lakes. People keep asking, what were your earliest memories? Fishing at the lakes. Granddaddy didn't push anything on him. He said, you can't push the kid, because you do, he'll go just the opposite way, which it's got to be something you want to do, because, this master distiller job, it's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You go to the grocery, somebody's liable to talk to you. You take a walk downtown, they recognize you, they want to talk about bourbon. And so I did it, and, watching Freddie, is there, and now he's doing very well, creating new brands, for Beam, and doing blends. People, when he first started with his little book line where it's a blended spirits, thought, what, are you going to let him do a blend? Or, blended whiskey was a cuss word when I was started in the business in the 80s. Now everybody's blending and finishing and doing different things with the products, and him and his team have done really well and are coming up with creative products, seems like monthly, and it's pretty cool to sit back and watch. He brings unmarked bottles home and lets it taste this, Dad, what do you think? I don't want to know what it is, because then if somebody asks me on the street and I say something I'm not supposed to, I get in trouble. I already have done that, so don't tell me anything, and that way when people ask me, I can say, I don't know what he's up to, but he's staying busy, and he's actually in charge of all the innovation now for the whole James B. Beam Distilling Company, and he's doing well.
It's fun to watch him grow up. As good of a speaker as Fred has been, as fun and entertaining, we were always wondering, does Freddie have that and all that? And he's incredible. He's an incredible speaker. He's so smart. He has the stories, and he has really grown into his own. You must be proud. And there's another Booker coming up behind that. So tell us about your grandson and any ideals he may have about the future. I know he has said something to you in the past.
Flag football and basketball and a swimming pool. That's his three things.
That's his three things.
He takes my garbage can out for me every week. I give him $5.
Dang, I'll take your garbage can out.
That's what Freddie said. We only give him $1.
Yeah.
I said, Papaw, it's on a different pay scale.
There you go. Yeah. That's what grandfathers are for.
But, he's a kid, He's into this, into that. Papaw, throw football? Sure, I'll go out and throw football with him. Go swimming? Yeah, I get in the swimming pool. It's all good. As a little kid, he just wants somebody to hang out.
Yeah.
I'll watch him do whatever.
It's fun to see that side of you, too, because, like I said, everyone's always see the Fred Noe, the bourbon guy, but Fred Noe, the guy, the grandfather, the father. It's so fun. It's so fun to see you in both sides, and love you in both ways.
I was on the road quite a bit during Freddie's childhood, but now I'm home a lot more. And they live right next door, so it's the best of both worlds. If I see him out there, I can ease out the back door. And Papaw, you want to shoot basketball? Sure. I got ruled out from playing soccer with him anymore. I failed and hit something.
Well, that's probably a good thing. Yeah.
No more soccer for Papaw. No more.
They haven't taken your keys away from you yet, though, have they?
No, not yet. Not yet.
That's the true sign.
That's a true sign.
They might need to.
So does Booker understand right now what you do and what his dad does? And has he ever said, hey, I like what you all do?
No, he's got no clue. Now, Braylee, the daughter, granddaughter,
she's precious.
She knows the deal, and she's made comments about it. But like Freddie said, we worry about soccer.
Yeah,
you're 16.
Let's not worry about that now. That's the last thing. And she's good at soccer. I mean, she's good, she's very good. She's incredible.
Very good. So it's they're traveling around with her quite a bit. Actually, go to Kansas City in a couple of weeks, I think, and which is all good. You know, she's concentrating on the soccer. Stay on that. Don't worry about the bourbon.
That. Exactly.
It'll be here.
It will. We're going to take one final break, and then we're going to come back we're going to do some quick fire questions to Fred when we get back and see what he has to say. And we're back with the final few minutes of Good Morning Sunshine. I'm here with my dear friend, Fred Noe, and I'm going to do something fun with you. We're going to learn a little bit more about Fred Noe, the man here, and I'm going to do some quick fire questions, and I'm going to see what you have to say with these questions. Okay, are you ready?
I don't know.
Are you sure? Okay, yeah, here we go. All right, so if you weren't born into a bourbon family, what would you be doing now?
That's a good question. I mean, some of the opportunities that I did, you know, running around with Hank Williams Jr. and Montgomery Gentry, I guess we're kind of through the bourbon, but I could see me being on the road with, you know, entertainer. So I don't mind. I like riding up and down the road. So that was a lot of fun when I did it, or being a truck driver or something like that. I can just see myself moving around. Traveled so much.
Yeah,
so
you like that. Yeah.
I don't mind rolling.
You've got some good friends in the music industry. We were just talking about Kid Rock. I mean, you call him Bobby. So I know you've developed really good relationships with some of these celebrities of the music industry.
Well, they figured out real quick I'm not real corporate.
Yes.
And I'm just like one of the guys. You know?
And you're fun.
NASCAR, we did that, with Robbie Gordon.
Robbie Gordon, right.
Did IndyCar with Andretti's, and so I've had a great opportunity, but it's all been through bourbon, you know, and it was, you meet these guys, and they're just normal people. Sometimes people try to put them on a pedestal. Mm-hmm. They don't want to be on a pedestal. They want you to talk to them just like they're your buddy.
And that's no different from you. And they like you because they think you're up there as Master Distiller Jim Beam. They found out you're Fred Noe. You're just a good guy that they love being around. So it kind of goes both ways.
I give him a hard time, and we give it back.
Yeah. Well, good. Okay.
Good.
Well, so he would be probably in the music industry somewhere. We pretty much figured that out. Okay. The strangest thing that's ever happened to you while on the road?
There's probably been a couple things. I had one guy in Australia wanted me to sign the hood of his car. I said, what? I figured it was going to be an old, banger, And I went out and it was a nice vehicle. I said, what? You really want me to put my, oh yeah, would love. So we signed the hood of this guy's car and right outside Melbourne, Australia.
Oh my gosh.
And it was a really nice car.
Really nice car, yeah.
I said, wow, I wouldn't let anybody sign the hood of my
Well, probably the appreciation went up that day, if you ever wanted to sell it. Nobody else will have a car that is signed like that by Fred Noe.
That was interesting. It was and then I had an interpreter one time in Russia who every time I said bourbon, he was saying bouillon, which I didn't know, but our sales girl, when our tasting was over, she was over there just ripping this guy, had that finger in his chest. I said, what's wrong? Every time he said bourbon, he was saying bouillon. I said, well, we kind of make soup, but and then distill it. That's all right. And she was very animated. I thought that was funny.
Well,
but you don't know the language, you got to just go with it.
Didn't you get denied
Oh, yeah.
into going to Russia one time? Didn't they deny you at the airport and you couldn't get in?
They turned me around and sent me back to Warsaw, Poland.
Yeah.
I said, hey, I don't care. As long as you didn't keep me.
Yeah.
I thought I was going to end up in Siberia making little ones out of big ones with a hammer, but it didn't. It was an interesting day.
How about the guy that tattooed the barcode of Jim Beam on his body?
Yeah, he's Frapp. He's a musician down in Texas, and I'd heard about this guy. He's got the barcode of Jim Beam tattooed on his neck. I said, you got to be kidding me. And when I met him, I looked, and it was the perfect numbers. And I said, man, do they charge you for one bottle or two when you go through? What do you mean? I said, well, if it scans your neck and
your bottle, yeah.
Oh, Fred, I got long hair. And he pulled his hair out. Okay. Either get even worse, him and some of his bandmates had me sign their arms at an event. They went and had my signature
tattoo
on their arm.
Oh, my gosh.
I said, boys, y'all are crazy.
What's the strangest thing that you can tell on public radio with all ages listening? What's the strangest thing you've ever signed other than the hood of a car on a personal person or whatever? Has there been anything else weird? Bald heads,
No, that arm was, their arms were pretty crazy. And the next night they came to another event down in Austin.
And they showed me
their arm. There's my signature on the arm.
That's funny. All right.
Wow.
Well, those are perfect. All right. What's your favorite drink?
Probably a whiskey sour.
Okay. And, people always say, well, what's your favorite bourbon? Of course, I always say whatever you're buying me. Right. But it's like your children. Do you have a favorite, though? I mean, is there something that's really closer to your heart than any other bourbon?
I'd say the Booker's, because it's Dad's. And he taught me before he passed to take care of it. So that's kind of my...
That's pretty special. Yeah. All right. What's your favorite movie?
Probably Animal House.
What does that not surprise me? Is it visions of your time at Western Kentucky?
Well,
is that
mostly
what it is?
Military school.
Military school, yeah.
And, we did some of the same stuff they did. And, we'll just leave it at that.
We'll leave it at that. Okay. And your favorite food?
I like a good steak.
Yeah.
I'm kind of a beef guy.
Well, you hang hams. You have a place at your house that you actually cure hams, don't you?
Yeah, we got a smokehouse back there that Jim Beam cured hams, made sausage. Booker did it. I helped Dad, and then when Dad passed, a few years later, Freddie said, Dad, can we do what you and Granddaddy used to do? I said, sure, if you do the work. So he's out there, does it, and we get out there together and cure hams, make sausage, and do it in the same spot. Just like it's, and we take them on the road with us and serve them to our customers that show up to events, and
it's pretty cool.
They seem to like it.
Yeah, that's a good, and it's a fun place to show too when people come by, because you use your backyard as an event space as you did on Monday, but you have a beautiful setup, but you use it as a VIP tasting dinner area. How easy is that? Walk out your back door and you get to host people. That's not bad.
Real good.
Yeah.
Because if you get tired of the the hustle and bustle, you can just go in the house, turn the light off.
Yeah. Close it down. Yeah.
I mean, I've never realized how easy it was. You don't have to get in a vehicle or nothing. You just walk in the house.
And that's it.
But everybody else, they do the work, setting it up and tearing it down, so I don't have to.
That is perfect. That works out. Roth, you had one.
Yeah, I'm not sure how... We have bourbon tourism and bourbon industry, which I guess it's a sub-thing. What drives one the best? Does the tourism drive the bourbon sales best, or does the bourbon sales drive tourism?
I think a lot of it goes back to when Governor Steve Beshear brought in folks from Napa Valley, and they were explaining to him and how I got elected to go to represent Jim Beam. Obviously none of the executives wanted to go, but they used the wine industry to make Napa Valley a tourist attraction. And they were telling them, you can use these distilleries and bring people to Kentucky to come see the distilleries. So I think they go hand in hand. There's people here that are, because a lot of times when you see them at our facility, maybe the husband, now it's getting more women, but early on, you could tell the men were into it and the women were just kind of tagging along, because that's where they wanted to go. But I think now there's a lot more women getting into bourbon, and so it's probably a draw, using the distilleries. Plus, this is a very friendly part of the country to be right here in central Kentucky. Everybody's, we got the Airbnbs, good restaurants, and everybody's friendly. It's not like it's a rural setting, and you can visit several distilleries from one spot. You could say set up camp here in Bardstown and go to Lawrenceburg to see Wild Turkey and Four Roses one day. Go down to Loretta and visit Maker's Mark. Head up to Lexington. And it's you be centrally located and have nice little road trips out. And a lot of guys bring their motorcycles. We see a lot of that.
There are a lot in town today for National Bourbon Day. Those guys come every year for National Bourbon Week.
They're a mess.
Yeah, they are a mess. You'll see them up on the balcony of the Talbot Tavern at some point at night. I'm like, this is not New Orleans. This is not, but have fun anyway.
They make it New Orleans.
They make it New Orleans, yeah.
And they got little coins they give you. They got crazy names like Swamp Daddy and all this stuff.
Yeah, they are. They are fun.
They are a lot of fun.
They've always been fun. They've always come to our events, and they make it an annual boys trip. Every year they come in. Well, it's 11:30 and we have to wrap it up. You've got to get on the road, but I just thank you so much for celebrating National Bourbon Week with us by being on. I know the stories because we've traveled so much together, but there's so many fun things that you've done But more importantly, what you meant and what you do mean to Bardstown and Nelson County. You are our ambassador. You are our George Clooney. You're the one that everyone knows about. And just you being out there really brings people to town. And thank you, Freddie, and everyone else at Beam for everything they've done for us here. My pleasure. Glad to be on. And I'm just me. You are just where you're from, and it's where I'm from. Yeah, just Fred. Well, thank you all for listening to Good Morning Sunshine. We'll see you again next month. Thank you, Roth.
You're welcome.